Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here. We're here today to announce what I consider to be a significant and important project for the I-81 corridor as it extends from Luzerne County through Lackawanna County. Before I start, let me at least recognize the folks that are here with us today. First, from the State Transportation Commission, Frank Pacheski. Frank, thank you for being here. My colleagues in the State House, Representatives Kavulich, Flynn, and Farina. And from the State Senate, Senator Baker, staff person Tom Yaneski. Tom and I have been friends for a long time. Thank you. From the Governor's Office, of course, Harry Forbes. Harry's been a longtime stalwart in local governance in northeastern Pennsylvania. And Harry, we thank you for being here at the presence of the Governor's Office at this announcement. I'd also like to thank the DuPont Borough officials who are here with us today. I know that the Park Summit folks will be impacted by this project potentially into the future, and we thank the support that we always get from our local government officials, in particular the DuPont officials. Take a second position to nobody when it comes to the interests of northeastern Pennsylvania and the interests of infrastructure in our county. I'd like to thank our partners in the community, Focus 81 people, and the economic development folks from both Greater Pittston and Lackawanna County. We have a tremendous network of highways and infrastructure, and our region has been the beneficiary of that network. But our network is strained, as many folks know, especially the corridor of 81 as it extends through Luzerne County and Lackawanna County. And so that's why I'm thrilled today to be here with the Secretary of Transportation, CEO of the Turnpike Commission, in an effort to advance the interests of the community, of those that use 81 and the Turnpike, in an effort to enhance safety and to move people efficiently through the corridor that extends, as I said, through Luzerne and Lackawanna counties. You know, we have a tremendous need, as many know, in northeastern Pennsylvania to expand the capacity of I-81. The interstate is really oversubscribed with respect to traffic flow, many hours of the day. And we have the asset of the Pennsylvania Turnpike from right here at the Wyoming Valley interchange to Clark Summit that is not widely used. In fact, it's fair to say that the Turnpike, as it extends from the Wyoming Valley to Clark Summit, has magnificent capacity ability that we need to take advantage of. The realities of transportation construction and funding in 2014, even with our transportation bill, demand that we can consider all possibilities with respect to the assets that we have and steps that we take in the future to enhance our transportation network. So today I'm thrilled that we're here to announce an examination of the assets that exist, especially the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and how we can move vehicles from the interstate, both at DuPont and at Clark Summit, in a high-speed fashion to get traffic from the interstate, from 81, onto the Turnpike, in an effort to make sure that our commuters and the folks that use 81 really, as a local road, have the capacity to make those movements in a safer and more efficient way. So I'm thrilled that we have such wonderful support from the members behind me. We have a wonderful House delegation and Senate delegation in Harrisburg that has really focused on infrastructure improvements, and with the leadership of Secretary Choke and the people at PennDOT and also the folks at the Turnpike Commission, we have a great opportunity here to really enhance the transportation network for northeastern Pennsylvania. So I'll stop there and turn the podium over to Senator Blake for a few words to outline his thoughts related to the project. Senator?
Glad you're here. I want to express deep thanks to Secretary Shoke from PennDOT and Mark Compton from the Turnpike. Deeply grateful, obviously glad to see representation from my colleague in the Senate, Senator Baker, and of course the House delegation. The Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission, under their system-wide transportation planning contract, set forth the Scranton Beltway feasibility study to explore the opportunity to optimize the use of the Turnpike, as Representative Carroll mentioned, and optimize the use of I-81. And the fact of the matter is that this study has taken a look, as Mike said, at millions of dollars of existing infrastructure, built infrastructure, but that the traffic patterns don't really serve the public as well as they could. As Mike mentioned, you have overcapacity on I-81 and you have undercapacity on the Turnpike. But this built infrastructure, the feasibility study that took a look at this, evidences a possibility for creating what many metropolitan areas throughout the nation have, which is basically a beltway project. And the adequate connections will be particularly north to north and south to south, allowing easy access, if you will, and a decision point at the lower terminus down here in the Wyoming Valley, and at the upper terminus at Clark Summit up at I-476. So there's an opportunity here, if we move forward, to probably redirect between 20 and 25,000 vehicles per day that could be diverted. That's an enormous amount of vehicles, particularly truck traffic that's going through the region that otherwise would have to go 3 miles longer and 10 miles an hour slower on I-81. And that's the reason this feasibility study is so important regarding the movement of traffic and the traffic patterns that we could impact. The fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, that going between Scranton and Wilkes-Barre and I-81, you're almost taking your life in your hands. It's a really dangerous corridor. An awful lot of traffic there. We also have business parks that are growing, thank goodness. So that truck traffic's not going to be subsiding at any time in the future. It's actually going to be increasing. This feasibility analysis, again, I want to thank the coordination of the Turnpike and PennDOT on this, because that coordination is really what brought us to today. And I want to thank all the principals involved, and the analysis really shows that if we make these investments, it's going to take a while to do this, but you've got to start with the analysis and the study. If we do this right across the forward horizon, we could not only increase the economic vitality of our region, but allow for public safety on our highways, and that's what this is all about. So I'm glad all the dignitaries are here. I want to again express thanks to the Turnpike and PennDOT to get this started. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Now I'll call to the podium the CEO of the Turnpike Commission, Mark Compton. Mark has had a long and distinguished career in state government, and we're thrilled that he's with us today to talk about this project. Mark?
Good afternoon. And I must say, I want to thank you, Representative Carroll, for putting me before Barry Shook. My business would work really hard not to follow guys like Barry Shook in this podium. To the folks behind me and to the Secretary, first of all, we say thank you. Because none of this would be possible without Act 89. Neither one of us, the Turnpike or PennDOT, would be talking anything about new capacity. We'd actually be talking about losing capacity, to be quite candid with you. So I want to thank the leadership behind me who made sure that they got us to this point with Act 89. So thank you all very much. This project started a few years ago, and I really have enjoyed our conversations with PennDOT as well as with Representative Carroll and Senator Blake as we started this a few years ago. But the idea of the Turnpike and PennDOT getting together started about 3 years ago in an effort called Mapping the Future. What Mapping the Future is really an effort for the Turnpike to draw a circle around its core capacities and for PennDOT to do the same, and for us to look and share where those new capacities overlap. We started out with soft skills, with training, sharing intellectual expertise and design, and candidly, we moved then into facilities. The one you're standing in is where there was two parallel facilities where we said this is an area where we should share. And we've moved on from the facility now into our hard assets, our roadway. Again, parallel assets with our northeast extension, with Interstate 81. How can we better utilize our asset and take pressure off of PennDOT's asset? And that's what we're excited to talk to you about, that we hit the next phase. Design projects work a little bit like you check boxes off. So the first box that we checked off was a study that said, you know, this is possible, this makes sense for the dollar amount that it's going to cost, for the pressure that it will relieve. Now we go to the next phase, which we get a better understanding of exactly where those direct connections will be, near Wyoming Valley, near Clark Summit, and we start to really hone in on what this project will look like. I look forward to continuing to be involved to get this through its process and to the stage in which we'll hopefully be back here with you and cut a ribbon. With that, thank you.
You know, we're really fortunate in northeastern Pennsylvania to be served by PennDOT District 4.0. The folks in Dunmore that oversee the multi-county region that is District 4.0, and the folks that represent the Luzerne and Lackawanna County maintenance districts do an outstanding job making sure that a very complex and complicated and lengthy network is well maintained and that future projects are well planned. So we're thrilled to have the folks that work for us and with us in both Dunmore and in the county offices, and their bosses behind me today, and their boss is Secretary Shope of PennDOT. And I can tell you that there is no better advocate, no better spokesperson when it comes to transportation projects in this Commonwealth than the Secretary. He has been a singular, solid, exceptional voice when it comes to advancing the interests of the transportation network in this Commonwealth. A wonderful leader in the lead up to Act 89. I doubt that we would have had the success that we did if not for Barry Shope. So I give to you now Secretary Shope from PennDOT.
Thank you, Mike, and I appreciate the kind words and appreciate the support of the delegation. I'm pleased to be here representing Governor Corbett today, and welcome to our maintenance facility. This was incredibly active all winter. If you'd have been here this winter, you'd have seen a flurry of activity. And you've heard a lot today about what the intent of today's discussion is, about announcing that we have found this to be feasible. But I want to back up a moment and talk to you about how we got here. Mark Compton alluded to the fact that we're looking at the Turnpike and PennDOT a little differently than perhaps the two agencies have looked at each other in the past. We're looking at it as though, could we share resources? And really, what Governor Corbett has impressed upon me when I took this position is that no matter what we do financially, we'll never have enough money for everything we'd like to do. So we have to push and say, how do we use it efficiently? And for the Turnpike and PennDOT, and I serve as a commissioner of the Turnpike as well, it's looking at all of our assets, all of our resources, be it people, be it our maintenance facilities, be it physical facilities like the Northeast Extension and I-81, and say, how can we use it better? For all of you who pay for these services, whether you're paying tolls on the Turnpike or paying the fees and user fees that we get at PennDOT, what you expect from us is how can we make use of all your investments to make it better for you. And we looked at the Northeast Extension, and this all started with representatives from Baker Corporation, the chief engineer, the Turnpike, and representatives from Corporate Taylor looking at it. They're here today, some of those representatives. I want to thank them for their work on this. We started off saying we need to rebuild the Northeast Extension, significant investment, and because of the age of the facility. And when you start looking at reconstructing it, you start saying, okay, as we rebuild it, are there things we should be doing as we rebuild it to make it more highly traveled? And clearly, the reason it's not as highly traveled is because of the connections to 81. Meanwhile, in my other hat, as Secretary of Transportation, we're looking at the need for increased capacity on 81 because of the usage. So I'm sitting in two meetings, one as a commissioner of the Turnpike looking at an underutilized facility that we need to rebuild, sitting in another meeting talking about the need to invest in I-81 for more capacity, and the need to rebuild sections of I-81 because it is aging. Now simply today, if you drive down between here and the southern part where 81 and the Turnpike come together, you recognize that if you look at that map, what's a pretty good way to get around the construction on I-81 and avoid the delays is to use the Turnpike, which I did the last time I was up here at the advice of one of the elected officials who said, don't go home that way. Your own project will make you sick. And when you're Secretary of Transportation, there's just no one you can call and complain to about sitting in traffic. So we looked at this, and I talked to Mark. We engaged Baker and Corporate Taylor and said, what could we do? And we sat down with the delegation. And I will tell you, Senator Blake and Senator Representative Carroll, sorry, Mike, I almost put you in the wrong chamber there. And we sat down and talked to them about it, as well as with the other members of the delegation. And collectively, all of them, all these elected officials behind me, said, you know what, that's a great idea. And not only because of the use of the two facilities and the improvements for traffic flow in the region, but also with new connections, it could help economically open up some regions for development that otherwise we're not going to develop. So we started with a feasibility study, as Mark said, checking a first box, saying this makes sense. And we looked at everything. We looked at the idea of taking over the Turnpike and saying, do we take tolls off? Do we take it down to I-80? What makes sense? And what makes sense to us is looking at north-south connections in the areas that have already been talked about today. So conceptually, we think this can work. And as Mark said, without Act 89, we probably wouldn't be standing here before you. Without the governor coming out and saying, I want this on my desk, without the elected officials getting together and coming up with a workable solution that became Act 89, we wouldn't be able to talk about solutions like this. But instead, with Act 89, with the revenue we have, and with the new collaboration and efforts between the Turnpike and PennDOT to say, let's not look at these as independent facilities, let's look at them as though drivers do, that they're part of the same network, and how can we interface them better to make best use of each of the systems. We now have an opportunity not only to improve the traffic conditions on a daily basis around this area, but also an opportunity to provide a better connection between the Turnpike and I-81, so that when we do have construction, the necessary reconstruction of either of the facilities, you now have a better and more complete access to get around those construction areas. So for a lot of reasons, if you're just a driver and you forget about who owns which, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So we're here today to say we're going to further this, and we'll find out where the best locations are, what the cost might be, what the toll structure might look like, and how we can finance it. And frankly, the general concept is to get more usage on the turnpike, get a better capacity, better use of the capacity on that system, perhaps averting some of the needs for investment on I-81, giving us a better bypass when we are under construction on 81 for commuters, giving them options that they don't have today. So I think it's probably a long time overdue that we actually looked at this study and looked at it this way, but we're here today to tell you we're moving forward. And it's not only in this region. I want to tell you, although we are studying it here, it's not as though this is the only place we're looking at improved access between the turnpike and our system. Along the entire main line, we're looking at what we call slip ramps, which are the idea of connecting PennDOT system to the turnpike in places we had never connected them. And as we at the turnpike transition to all electronic tolling, it makes those connections less costly and more feasible. And what it does is make better use of the entire network. And really when it comes down to it, if you're driving, you really don't care if you're on a local road, you're on a state road, or you're on the turnpike. What you want is good access and good mobility. And that's the responsibility of the Department of Transportation and the turnpike, moving people and moving products, supporting the lifestyle economy in Pennsylvania. And we do that by doing these kinds of connections. So today is an important day. It's important for this delegation to support us. It's important to Governor Corbett, who pushed me into the idea and concepts of looking at how we can use these facilities better and merge the two agencies into using the two complementary facilities in a better, more efficient manner. And it's a testament to the leadership of the governor in pushing for Act 89. The legislature has supported it and getting us the funding so we can make these kind of improvements. So this is the beginning, as Mark said, and as Representative Carroll said, of a study, and as Senator Blake said, it's not going to happen overnight, but what it is progress towards something that's long overdue. So today's the announcement of that. We're pleased that you all came out to listen, to hear what we're in the midst of doing. And again, I'll express my appreciation to those who spoke before me and those who are here in attendance. My commissioner from our State Transportation Commission, who's probably listened to me endlessly talk about the need for modernization and moving this agency forward. And here's another example of the things we're doing. If you're interested in other things we're doing, go to PennDOT's website, click on Modern PennDOT. You will see all the initiatives that have collectively resulted in $100 million a year of annual savings. What's that mean to all of you? $1.5 million a bridge, 60 more bridges a year, every year with the same money. That's what we should be doing. That's what good government is, and I'm pleased to have been a part of it. So with that, I'll open it up and take any questions about anything we talked about today. And you can ask difficult questions to the elected officials instead of me, if that's what you'd like to do. But we'll certainly entertain any questions about the topic at the end of the day. Thank you all for coming out. Questions? First group ever to not ask a question. Look, yes. Well, I think it's a combination of people make a decision about whether you're using a toll facility or non-toll facility about the trip time and cost. And right now, because there's no direct connections, it's an indirect route, and you're paying a fee to use the indirect route. If we can make the connections better to the point where it's a more convenient trip and you're avoiding congestion on 81 and you have better connections with an opportunity to get back to 81 more quickly, we think that will attract ridership to the turnpike. That happens routinely around Harrisburg using the turnpike as a commuter route. It happens in Philadelphia, it happens in Pittsburgh. The reason it doesn't happen here is we don't have as many connections. That's the whole point of this study.
The other point that's important, the Secretary mentioned speed and time, and for truckers in particular, if it is a direct connection, the turnpike is 10 miles per hour faster than 81, and it's also 3 miles shorter than having to go 81 north all the way to Clark Summit. So those are issues that have also, in addition.
Will this project bring more jobs to the Commonwealth?
Well, everything we're doing under Act 89 is going to bring more jobs to the Commonwealth. What infrastructure investment does, it creates direct investment and jobs associated with the design, construction, supply of materials, and things like that when you're building a facility. The other thing it does is when you start looking at this region, and businesses start looking at this region, a transportation network is about moving people and moving products. If businesses see that we're able to do that more efficiently, it will improve the economic competitiveness of this region. So yes, it will mean more jobs. Act 89 as a whole will mean over 60,000 new jobs in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania by the time it's fully implemented on an annual basis. In addition, as we improve the infrastructure and improve our competitiveness, it will mean we'll be able to attract and retain more businesses in Pennsylvania. So absolutely, this is about the economy of Pennsylvania.
I think it's important to remember that just over the crest of the hill is Centerpoint, and also the Grimes Industrial Park, which is directly behind the Scranton Airport. And the activity that we have at this end of the project with respect to economic development and job creation is tangible. And so a project like this really enhances our ability to move traffic, both goods and also employees in an efficient way. So with respect to the southern terminus of this project, there's a real tangible benefit for those of us that are interested in job growth and economic development, especially in Greater Pittston.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
When do you expect the study to start?
We're going to start the study. The meetings, this is it, basically. We're starting it this month, so the consultants are under contract to move forward this month. In terms of a timeline on that, it really depends on how quickly we can arrive at the connections, hone in on the costs and the ridership forecast. So we'll update you on the schedule as we go forward. We're going to start this month.
How much do you think the study will cost?
Pardon me?
How much will the study cost?
It's a one-year study, about $500,000 for an overall cost for the study. And that's going to include, again, the traffic revenue looks as well as the engineering associated with looking at the connections and alignments.
Thank you all so much for being here. We'll be around if anybody has any individual questions.